All right, so I am here with Tom Kunzman from 18th and Addison and Black Mansions. How you doing today, Tom?
Good, good. How are you?
I'm doing good, hanging in there, despite what 2020 is throwing at us.
Yeah, all things considered, we're alive.
Yeah, so how are you guys holding up? I know we talked kind of briefly about it before, but
Yeah, I mean, kind of been somewhat the same. I mean, we were sort of in tour mode before all this happened. So we kind of kicked off the new year in January. We went out and did some shows out in Texas, California, and Colorado and stuff like that. And the plan was to get back out in February, and we are looking at hitting up Canada for the first time and things like that. And mentally, we were in like we're ready to tour. Like we can't wait for this. Like it was a lineup of some really great bands throughout the next couple tours. And everybody was very excited. And then COVID obviously happened, and there was that big shift. We got home, and then it was sort of a weird mix of like feeling almost like you kind of felt okay with the fact that you were home when you were supposed to be on tour, which is an odd feeling because neither of us ever feel that way. But it's because I think the entire world was in the same position,
right.
that it didn't feel like something that just wasn't working out. It just kind of is what it is. Everybody was dealing with the same shit. So we just kind of rolled with it. We took advantage of relaxing at home for once and just really kind of just hanging out, which we don't ever really do. In that time, we kind of slowly but surely started to write and demo a lot of new stuff. We started demoing in a very different way, not just like the two of us sitting there with acoustic guitars and singing at each other and hoping someone understands what the other noises we're hearing in our heads. So we started doing some cool things with just like the cheap like GarageBand app on like an iPad or whatever. So just to kind of like mess with different noises and things like that. And then so we've just been having a lot of fun writing stuff that's a lot more like, it's got a lot more color to it, I think, is probably the best way to put it. So that's pretty much what Kate and I have been up to here, and just kind of in a hole with Netflix and writing. Netflix and writing.
That Netflix is really easy to fall down. It's actually funny. Sure. I love hearing stories about how bands and artists and everything record their demos and what they're kind of working on. One of my favorites was Linkin Park. The way they used to do it, I think before their last album or something like that, they would record all the music parts, but they would do that before they had the lyrics down. So they would just sing nonsense which I thought was pretty funny. And then Gorillaz, I think it was. I might be wrong on that. You mentioned GarageBand. I believe it was Gorillaz recorded one of their whole albums on GarageBand. It's the whole thing.
Yeah, that's nuts. I didn't know that. That's really cool. We were actually saying, like, we were like, imagine we got like an entire record done on GarageBand during this quarantine. That'd be nuts.
I have the little iRig device that you can plug a guitar or bass into an iPad and into GarageBand and all that stuff, and it doesn't work.
Oh man, they're good though. They're really cool, and you can get from. We actually were speaking to a producer friend of ours, this guy that Kate used to work with when she was younger, and he was actually telling us there's a microphone that's been made specifically for iRig in order to accommodate Bandcamp. Apparently, it sounds amazing, but like our iRig is also broken. So what I started using is I literally just use this little practice amp that our friend and photographer Eric Silvergold gave us.
Yeah,
and this thing, it's so tiny, but it's like I put like a headphone, like an iPod headphone underneath it, the one with the mic attached, and I take the other side and we just put that in like our left ear, and that amp sounds insane.
Really?
Like everything we've been writing and playing, I'm like, this is so weird and it feels so stupid, but I might actually record the guitars like like, it's so crazy. It's insane, but whatever works. It's like whatever gets the idea down. And when you have like a vision for stuff too, like for a new direction of your band or a new direction of just for one record, you just want to experiment. I think right now is the time for every musician and artist. It's like to come out with anything that's not better than what you've already done, and it's not a little bit different. And you know, I feel like it's almost unacceptable at this point, because it's like we've been given the luxury of time. It's
Yeah.
like you've literally, like, all our lives, everyone's like, oh my god, like, well, you know, there's not enough hours in the day. It's like, well, now there's like double that, because you
Now you
can't
have
do
all the time in the
anything.
world.
Yeah, so like, you know, stay home, write your music, and try new things. And yeah, that's kind of what we've been doing. And yeah, it's like some of our stuff doesn't work very well, but it ends up sounding good enough for us to know that like the idea that we have in our minds is getting across. So
Sure.
whatever gets the job done.
Yeah. Actually, I wanted to bring kind of that up. You guys in particular have had quite an eventful year just within since like August of last year. Let's see, you released a new EP, a great one,
Mhm.
which I talked about on my website, thatmusicjunkie.com.
Yes,
You
thank
got
you.
married.
Yeah,
You and Kate got married, which is great. You formed Black Mansions, which we'll
yeah.
talk about here in a second. And Black Mansions has released 3 singles so far. So you've had quite the eventful just year alone.
Yeah, it's kind of like nonstop once you kind of set yourself in motion. I don't know if that's for maybe everybody, but I know for me, it's one of those things. You know, it's like I kind of once I get excited about something, it's kind of like full speed ahead, and very good at compartmentalizing, thankfully, so that you're not gonna like hear 18th and Addison music one day and it's just gonna be all synths and you know, it's like
You're not
songs
going to
about,
pull the
you know,
AFI
whatever.
and be like, oh, cool, AFI has a new album, but it sounds a lot like Black Audio. That's interesting.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think a few songs on December Underground were supposed to be Black Audio, and it definitely shows. Yeah,
Okay,
so
for sure.
you're also being propped up by the Black Mansion's notebook right
Oh,
now.
look at that.
Yeah,
So
because
speaking of,
that's
yeah,
my pro setup at home.
you're propped up on a couple of card boxes right now. On
Hell yeah.
a,
So much cooler.
speaking of Black Mansions, let's talk about that a little bit. What was the inspiration behind it? It's you and one other person whose name escapes me at the moment.
Yeah, so it's me and my friend Spags. Yeah, so him and I, we've known each other for years, since like, man, 2007 or 8, I want to say. He's in another band as well called End of an Era, and you know, they were very, very popular in that, like, I don't want to say like the music scene, because like the scene was always pretty like segregated in a lot of ways at the time. It wasn't like you would go, there were multi-genre shows, but not everybody was as cool with it as they are now. You know, now people look for multi-genre, and those are always my favorite, because you got a whole entire room full of people and all different types of people, so you had a chance to, you know, kind of showcase what you've been working on to so many different people. And on those shows, he would either be running them and would book my old band. He's had 18th and Addison on shows in the past before as well. And yeah, one day we were playing out of this place called Brighton Bar in Long Branch, New Jersey. It's like our home venue. It's like 45 minutes away from us, but like we call that like our hometown shows, just because
Sure.
it's like those are the most, we just do very well at that venue. They're really cool with us all the time. So anyway, at the time, Spags was still doing shows there. He might have even ran this show for us that we played, and he really liked what Kate and I were doing acoustic, and had offered to like play drums at one point. And he was like, seriously, like if you need anybody, like let me know. And at the time, we really didn't have a plan for a band yet. We kind of just wanted to like get our feet wet with like the songwriting and make sure, you know, see if it was turning heads.
Sure.
And it eventually was, you know, it was starting to do that. And you know, him and I just, we lost touch for a little bit, but it was never like we were like ever out of touch. It was just we just happened to not talk to each other for a little bit of time. 2017 rolled around. We brought him out on tour on drums. He came into this tour with us in the Northeast. It was freezing cold, and he hated us for it. And because I don't know why I booked the Northeast. This is when I was booking the tours. This is why I don't book them anymore, because I put everyone in freezing cold weather. And so we did that, and on that tour, every night him and I would be like the last ones up. So we'd be driving 2, 3 in the morning after a show, maybe even later, and we would just be listening to you know, music that you could probably hear that influences Black Mansion, stuff like from that 80s dark wave, new wave, synth pop type of stuff. So like think like, I guess, Depeche Mode, Sisters of Mercy, things like that.
Yeah.
We talked about anybody from like The Damned to, you know, anything really. Yeah, yeah, there they are. It's beautiful. Like all of that. Wow, that's an awesome little shelf back there. But
Change it every time.
yeah,
So
all this stuff, and there's so many bands like that that not everyone like I had been on tour with really connected with, but they enjoyed it while they were trying to like go to sleep or whatever. Because
right.
it's very like relaxing music. It's like I think it's the most escapist genre. I think you can really get lost in that sound with all the synths, and it's very like there's a specific like smoothness to it that you don't necessarily get from a guitar-driven band.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
yeah, it's just fun. It's different. And so him and I were talking about that type of stuff and how much we love it. And I didn't know he was as into it as he is. And little I really didn't know that he basically had like records upon records worth of material just at his house. So I go, well, dude, like I would love to hear some of that. And he never sent me anything because I guess like he just didn't think it was that good or whatever. And when he finally did send it, it was like that I started writing to it. So that was probably like April 2019. I want to say that we kind of started working together and feeling out what we were gonna do. And then yeah, closer to 2020, it became like, yeah, you know what? Fuck it. Like we're gonna start a band together. We're gonna call it Black Mansions, and it's very like horror driven. Like I like a lot of him and I are both like big fans of more like old school horror films and things like that, like just like those 80s and 70s like classic horror and even further back, like
Yeah.
anything like that. There's just something so cool and mysterious about that type of film genre back then. And also with the style of music we do, there's a lot of mystery to it. There's this darkness to it. Even if you don't necessarily try to put it there, it kind of just pulls it out of you. And yeah, it was a chance, I think, for me to finally step out and try something that I had been a fan of since I was like a little younger. Like it was probably like 2008. I don't know how old I was. I might have been like 14. And at that time, I was just really into that style of music. But I was in like the metalcore and hardcore and punk scenes, and I didn't really know how to do any of that.
Yeah.
He does know how to do the music, and I go, oh, well, that's actually kind of cool because I've been wanting to do a project like this for like years now. And yeah, we just dove right in and we finally unleashed it this year, especially like, what better time for a band like Black Mansions than in the middle of a global pandemic?
Why not?
Yeah, it kind of suits it.
I've listened
Yeah,
to all three of the singles. The most recent one being "Ghost on the Ceilings," just
yeah.
came out a couple days ago. Shouted it out on my Instagram.
Yes, I saw that. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. I really dig it. I can't wait for you guys to release an EP or whatever you're gonna do. Upon first listen, it's kind of reminiscent. I got the vibe of what I wanted Black Audio to sound like. Kind of
Wow.
when it first came out. Because I'm a big AFI fan, but I like more of their older stuff. Like,
Okay. Yeah.
so when they were more into the horror stuff, so I guess I kind of liked the idea of Black Audio, but more along the lines of when like Art of Drowning and stuff came out, if like that came out. And then it also
Right.
reminded me of do you know that band Crosses? That
Yeah.
yeah, I kind of got that vibe. Now, obviously, you guys have a little bit more of the horror influence, and you don't sound exactly. I'm not like saying you guys sound exactly like that by all means,
Yeah. No, I get what you're saying. Yeah.
for sure. And so yeah, that's the vibe I kind of got off it, and I
That's
dug
cool.
like both of those bands. So
Yeah, that's really cool. We get the Black Audio comparison pretty often, and I think it's from the same idea. As a lot of people really love that same vibe. Like that's something that I think I've always loved too growing up. So like, I understand that, and I understand everybody like us who really are just drawn to that like that horror and that Halloween imagery and things like that. It's just so fun. It's always been fun, and it gets kind of like shit on a little bit by a lot of people. It's almost like it's become this thing that people like bash. But look, dude, like every band that I grew up loving that did that and had this thing still have it. And there's some that have like kind of come and gone like any genre of course, but like there's still this ridiculous like cult following that they just are so invested in what you're doing. And I think it's the mystery. I really do. I think it's like that mystery of like what's going to happen next, what's coming next, and you never really know. And I think that's kind of the really cool thing that, yeah, with this style of music, I feel like it would almost be an injustice to not do that.
Right.
You know, just write pop songs. You know, we could easily just write some very simple lyrics that just kind of are enough to just get stuck in your head. But I would rather that, you know, get it stuck in your head, but also have it tell a really cool story, which there is a very long story to all these songs. They all connect to each other and things like that, which if you're an albums person like I am, you know, it's really fun.
Yeah.
But we try to write it in a way that, you know, with whatever does come, it's like every song individually can stand on its own. You don't need to know the whole story in order to enjoy it. So
So yeah, let's talk about the latest single, "Ghosts on the Ceiling." What's the inspiration behind it? I've listened to it a few times, and like I said, I dig it. So I'd like to hear the artist input about it. You know, like
cool. Yeah, I mean, it's like, guys, it's a big story that I was very excited to kind of dive into. We're touching on topics of, you know, just trying to understand, I guess, just the way people sort of think when they aren't fulfilled, and you know, addictions set in and these toxic thoughts can kind of start to happen that can sort of burden a person. And I was wondering how you can almost try to paint a picture of that being like you're in a certain situation that you might not have planned for, and you're always kind of daydreaming. But when you're daydreaming, it's kind of like, okay, cool, but like where do you really go? You know, because you're there physically, but it's blank. So mentally, what's really going on? And none of us can ever really, you know, recollect what we were thinking when we were daydreaming. You can barely even remember dreams when you wake up. So it's like, okay, so where does that piece of you go? Because it's definitely a piece of you off somewhere that you can't reach just yet. So what is it, and why do you keep returning? And it's obviously this obsession with something that even might just be burdened in the back of your brain. And you're just kind of, you only go there when your conscious mind shuts off and the subconscious can kind of take over. So I was kind of looking at that like, I kind of want to give this a character, a couple characters. I want to give this a city. I want to give this its own landscape, everything. And so we kind of just started building on that and writing songs to kind of help tell this story and this trajectory of this one person who, you know, gives into his, I guess, like inner, more toxic desires and thoughts and things like that. And eventually, almost like catatonic, is trapped inside it and can't get out. There's angels, there's demons, there's friendly little, like, you know, if you can imagine the three little people from Nightmare Before Christmas.
Oh yeah.
Sort of like guiding you along through your own personal hell, really. But Ghosts on the Ceiling is a very dancey, very fun song.
Right.
And the idea from in my mind there was, it's almost as if the conductor bringing you in and introducing you to your own personal hell is trying to paint this beautiful picture, but it's clearly not a good place to be, you know? So like, you know, that's kind of where the idea kind of comes from, and the inner thought as well. So it's sort of like, it's a little blurry. It's a little blurry. You're going in and out of like what this person is sort of guiding you through, but also like there's this arrogance. You're cocky about being there because it feels good. And when you feel good, you have this air of confidence that you normally don't. So it's this kind of walking through the place with like your chest out, like, this is where I belong. I finally found my place, not realizing this place is not real. You know, it does not exist. And yeah, you're just sort of walking through and pretty much trying to walk so deep into your own mental hell or whatever you want to call it in order to stay there, because you're seemingly happier there, knowing it's an unhealthy place to be. So it's, you know, some fun imagery and things like that, and just like lyrics to help paint a picture, and of course you can dance to, you know.
Sure. That's actually really cool, because I know a lot of, at least nowadays, a lot of, you know, I don't want to say dance music because you guys aren't necessarily dance music, but just music that you can dance to isn't very, you know, deep.
Yeah, no, not very often.
So that's actually really cool. It's one of the things I've always kind of liked about your music in general, whether it be Black Mansions or 18th and Addison. I can always tell that there's a lot of thought and just effort put
Thank you.
into it. So it's always something I appreciate. You, just like any band. I think that's, and I wrote an article about this a couple years ago. One of the reasons I don't like pop music is because there's no soul to it. You know, there's nothing,
Right.
no substance, and
Right.
that's not to say all pop music is like that, but just most of the stuff that you would hear on the radio is.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's
And
one of
that's kind
the
of what I was talking about before. Like we could have gone that route. You know, it was very like it could have been whatever. You know, it could have been anything at that point. And then, yeah, you kind of make that choice on your own when you're about to write something. Sort of like, okay, well, what do I want to say here? You know, what do I want to talk about? How far do I want to dive into this story or this topic? And storytelling is probably my favorite thing about songwriting. I've been like that since I was little. I love making up characters. I love making up just different scenarios and things like that. And some things that might seem far-fetched, but like that's the fun part of a lot of it, is putting this exaggerated visual to it, something a little more theatrical than just like telling it like it is. And that's it. You know, it's nice to have that, and it's nice to connect. That's like something we do a lot in 18th and Addison. We like to keep it very bare bones a lot of the times, but also, you know, like there's nothing wrong with a little bit of, you know, a poetic nature to something to kind of help you really connect and say something on a deeper level and use some words that you normally probably wouldn't say in everyday conversation, you know?
Sure. Yeah, that's awesome, man. So you know, you've been writing music for Black Mansions this year. I was kind of wondering, you know, I mean, everything's kind of still up in the air. You know, things start opening up again, but then they close back down because people aren't wearing masks and all that stuff. And
Yeah.
um, ideally, you know, in magical Christmas land, what are your plans kind of going forward musically for both 18th and Addison and Black Mansions?
So, I mean, really, right now with 18th and Addison, Kate and I are working on just a bunch of new songs. We're kind of just putting together like just a catalog, just trying to get a bunch of stuff together. And what's really exciting about this song is we're approaching this with this idea of every track that we do, whether it becomes an EP or a full length, we haven't really figured that out yet. Um, every song right now is looking like it's going to be a collaboration with another artist that we love and admire.
Interesting.
And yeah, it's going to be very fun. It's almost like in a sense of sort of like a very like, it's interesting. It's a sort of like a move like a lot of rappers make where almost every song has a feature.
Yeah.
Things like that, you know, people working together. That's
Yeah.
sort of the idea, is to kind of do that to the best of our ability with, you know, the circumstances in the world right now. But yeah, we're looking at it being every song to be a collaboration with another artist or another producer or somebody that we just, you know, really admire their work, and we know that they understand us and appreciate what we're going for. Some of it's just friends of ours that we play shows with on the road and things like that. And some of it are musicians and people that we grew up listening to, like when we were little kids, you know. So it's gonna be very fun. I really think that it's going to be like the most I can really say right now, because we're still figuring it all out, is it's, regardless if nothing else, it's going to be the most interesting release we've done. I think it'll be the most interesting release, and I think it'll be the most eclectic.
Nice. Well, I love
Yeah,
being eclectic, so I'm looking forward to that.
just as of right now, the most I could say is just expect it to just like it's like riding like a roller coaster that, like, I don't know, just completely goes off the tracks, and it's fun. And
Well,
then
I'm for it, man. I'm invested already. So
oh dude, yeah, I can't wait. We're just, you know, we're doing as much as we can right now with just, you know, it's obviously too, it's tough to get a lot of people to be able to collaborate. A lot of these guys, like, yeah, just because, you know, we're home now, we're not on tour, doesn't mean there's not other things to do. A lot of the people we're collaborating with have families, you know, so they're not on tour and they want to take advantage of being with their kids and their wives. And it's like, we get it. Cool. in other senses too, when they're not emailing us or texting us and we're not sharing ideas with each other, you know, they've got other projects too that they work on, you know, like it's the music world never really stops or takes a break, even when, you know, the entire world does. So it's like we're kind of just always going 24/7. You know how it is. You're the same way with what you do. So it's just nonstop. So it's a little difficult sometimes. So it's taken us a little bit, but you know what? Again, like we've been given the luxury of time right now, so we're using it wisely, and you know we're having fun with it. There's a lot of people we respect, so that'll be fun to be able to like really talk about once we have more of a direction. But right now, the only direction that there is in terms of the music. Like our vision for the music and everything right now is just on an all-time high, and it's pretty much everything we've wanted to do since probably 2016.
Okay.
And it just wasn't ready yet. I don't think the material was there, and you know I'm glad in a sense that it's happening now, because now we've also, again, with these collaborations, it's stuff that like 12-year-old me would have lost my mind. So it's like really, it still happens like every now and then. You're kind of like, oh my God, like we're really doing this right now. And like this is going to be on our record soon, you know? So
yeah,
hopefully we formulate like a real plan, and hopefully studio situations start to get easier so we can do what we do. But right now it's kind of tough. As for Black Mansions, there's like a lot of stuff. Thank you. As for Black Mansions, there's a lot of material in the works still. We're just kind of always going. We don't really go with a plan really, which is makes it a lot of fun. With 18th and Addison, we've always kind of gone off like an idea. We've gone off like a blueprint and sort of really keep ourselves strict to it so that we keep our focus on it. And with Black Mansions, for him and I, like we're total ADD, and it's just kind of just doing whatever, whenever. And it seems to have been working. It's growing a lot faster than I had expected it to, with us just honestly just having fun making this music and just going off ideas that come to us, like, you know, just immediately hit us, not overthinking anything, not over planning anything to a point where it's not fun, you know. Just a lot of that right now. But yeah, we've got some exciting plans though for like this year, and most likely the beginning of next as well. Shows and stuff like that are kind of off the table, so a lot of this is just music and hopefully more content, because again, it's also kind of tough to make videos right now. But
yeah.
but there's ideas, and a lot of the ideas are just so ridiculous. The ridiculousness is what makes it so fun, you know. Black Mansions is kind of a weird band anyway. If you listen in succession of what we've released so far, the 3 songs they make no sense together, really. They're kind of weird, you know, and it's fun. You know, that's what we like about it. And then, yeah, with 18th and Addison, it's just a hyper focus right now on writing and demoing, just to really execute these new ideas of what we want to be doing that isn't what we've done the last 4 releases. You know, this will be our 5th release. Like, that's something that blows my mind.
Well, you guys haven't, I mean, in my opinion, you guys haven't missed the mark yet with your
thank you
releases. The last one, Vultures, is I spin that one regularly on my Spotify.
Yeah,
I dig that one so much.
Oh, thank you, man.
It's usually like my first recommendation, because people, you know, I get friends and family members all the time like, hey, what do I listen to? I'm like, well, have you listened to this yet?
Right. That's awesome. Thank you, man. Yeah, Vultures was like our like angry punk record.
Which is probably why I like it so much.
Yeah, that was the one. That was a crazy year for sure. That year was nuts, and then the year following the tour, that was unbelievable. Like the crazy ride that EP sort of took us on, because we didn't really get to do much for it, but you know, there's just so much that happened in between. Like 2017 of just, you know, we released Makeshift Monster, we went crazy with our self-booked tours to like we were not home at all, and then 2018 happened and we did Vultures, and you know, there was all these things that happened during those tours that influenced that record, and every time I listen to it I picture the faces of everyone that inspired.
That's great, man.
It's fun though, dude. It's always fun. It's a high energy album for sure.
Oh, I dig it. So
thank you, man.
well, thanks for taking some time out of your busy schedule to meet with me.
Yeah, of course, man.
for the viewers at home, let's hear some plugs. Where can we find Tom and 18th and Addison and Black Mansions and all that stuff?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram. My personal account is just at Tom Kunzman. It's a Kunzman. I'm not very clever with my usernames. For 18th and Addison, it's just at 18th Addison. They won't let us do the little symbol that we wanted, so it's just 18th Addison. It didn't fit, I guess. And then it's at Black Mansions Music. That's all on Instagram. Black Mansions we just activated, I should say, our Twitter, because we kind of made the Twitter once we made up the band name just to sort of secure the band name, and then finally activated it. So now it's a fully functioning thing, and that is at Black_Mansions. And 18th and Addison's username on Twitter is just 18th Addison. Websites, 18thandaddison.com, blackmansionsmusic.com. We got some merch up now too, so lots of stuff. Spotify, Apple, all that fun stuff. However you listen to music, it's all there.
Sure, I'll post some links in the description below for Spotify and other outside links. Get that going.
Awesome, guys. Thank you very much, man. I always appreciate your support, and you obviously taking the time to talk to me about this stuff. It's really cool. It's fun to have some sort of like platform to talk about these things.
Yeah, no problem. Cool. Thank you again, Tom Kunzman, for meeting with me, and we'll see you next time. Have a good one.
Yeah, man. You too. Have a good one.
Thank you so much for watching that video. If you enjoyed it, please be sure to like and subscribe. And for more content, head on over to thatmusicjunkie.com. Did you know I have a Patreon? It would really help me out if you could check it out. I also have merch available over on Teespring. Links in the description below. See you guys in the next video.